Yeah, hi. Thank you for joining the HPE Discover virtual experience. We've decided to have these presentations just to recap on some of the key areas around that occurred during Discover. And it's a real shame that Discover couldn't happen in person this year. But I've had many a year where I've gone out to I think a couple of years ago we were out in Madrid, I believe, and it's really good to be able to not only take our customers out there, but also spend time with the HPE and our customers all at once. So so hopefully we'll kind of replicate some of that today and go through some of the the key announcements and the key areas where we'll where HPE announced that we're going to go forward. So just a little bit of background about, for those who don't know, Ultima and HPE have been in actually Ultima been running now for 30 years. It's our 30th anniversary this year, and I think talking to my chairman or ex-chairman but now owner, Max McNeil, I believe 28 years of that has been selling and working with HPE or Compaq or Digital before that. And personally, I've been working with Compaq and HP or HPE, then previously HP, since about 2002. I remember installing a ProLiant 1600 server back in 2001, 2002. So it's been quite a while since I've been working on it. Yeah. So hopefully today we'll enlighten you in some of those areas. I'll introduce a few people who are going to be talking throughout today on some of these topics you can see on your screen. We have Heather Johnson, who's the Channel Sales Manager for National Partners. He's going to take us through the strategy in general at HPE and go through some of the highlights there. We've got a Greenlake conversation around with Darren Edwards, who's the hybrid IT solutions architect. We have HPE Ezmeral with Doug Cackett. We have the storage intelligent data platform, and Darren's going to take that up again, Darren Edwards there. And then finally, the Aruba Edge Services platform. We're going to talk through with Paul Richards, who's solution architect in the Aruba space. And then finally, you have the pleasure of myself again right at the end to just take you through just to close off and talk to you about a few things about Ultima and HPE. So if I can hand over to Heather, who can do the intros from HPE and talk about the strategy.
Good morning. Thank you, Matt, for that introduction. A warm welcome to everyone this morning. I trust you are well. My name is Heather Johnson, and I am the Channel Sales Manager for National Partners here in the UK. I'd like to thank Ultima for the opportunity to come and share with you today our perspectives and our strategy, much of which was shared at Discover earlier this year. Next slide, please. So today we're seeing an increase in change. The pace has never been faster, in actual fact, and with the current situation with the global pandemic, this has caused many organizations to look at more permanent solutions for providing remote workplaces for their users, both secure, flexible, and agile. And many organizations are actually looking at some of the benefits that they're seeing from users working from home, and some users are enjoying the flexibility that it gives them as a work balance life. So that in itself is giving organizations a pause for thought as to what the new norm will look like from this point on and as we continue forward. Coupled with that, there is an explosion of data growth as we are more connected than ever. And in actual fact, as expected by 2022, there's going to be something in the region of 55 billion devices connected worldwide. And with all of those connections, we're sharing data. And that data is the opportunity for us to gain insights in trends in our customers, and is an opportunity for us to look at new experiences, new services, new business models. And then obviously we had the introduction of 5G, which is giving us an opportunity to have increased bandwidth. But with that comes there'll be an appetite for more data-rich applications, which will decrease latency. Next slide, please. At HPE, we pride ourselves on advancing the way people live and work. And we have another number of examples in which we've been helping customers such as yourselves in doing exactly that. Many of you may have heard of the Tottenham Hotspur's stadium support and solutions that we helped build, where we increased connectivity around the stadium, gave fans a new experience where they were able to connect to a number of facilities, sat at their chairs, the ability to order food to their seats, to find the nearest facilities. And that gave a greater experience for the fans, but also an opportunity for Tottenham Hotspurs as well. We've also helped with connectivity when we look at the Ryder Cup, for example, and then we look at some of the work that we've been doing in Formula One with Williams, where we've been helping them with providing a data center at the edge, providing solutions that are able to process data in real time and gain actual insights in simulations and potential performance, improved performance on the cars. Outside of that, we've been working with research institutes to look at how we can help improve crop growth. So we've had solutions where we've put sensors and data in fields and farms, and we've been helping to look to see how we can improve crop growth to help with reducing food famine and helping with food sustainability. And finally, some of the other things that we've been looking at is to help universities with research in finding a cure for Alzheimer's. And these are just a handful of some of the solutions that we've worked with our customers and our partners in helping them advance the way that people live and work. Next slide, please. So today we find ourselves living in a world that is edge-centric, cloud-enabled, and data-driven. And we believe that we are absolutely in the era of insights now. We're starting to see a shift from traditional central IT strategies to moving to an edge in manufacturing, into leisure, and here what organizations need is the ability to capture, analyze, monitor, and action in real time data that's at the edge that now allows them to identify new opportunities, new services, new experiences for their customers. And when we look at their traditional cloud strategy, we're looking at many of our customers at a more distributed model. So moving away perhaps from that traditional IT strategy and having data and applications distributed across multiple clouds, in co-locations, at the edge, etc. But with all of that data being created, there is a need to be able to understand that data in real time. Only about 6% of the data is actually actioned in real time today. So there is an opportunity for us, for organizations, to further review that and gain opportunity from that. Next slide, please. So this is what underpins HPE Strategy. We look to redefine customers' experiences at the edge with edge-line solutions and Aruba Intelligent Edge. We recently announced the industry's first AI-powered, unified, autonomous, secured Aruba Edge service platform that Paul will talk about a little later in this presentation. As we look to support customers managing multiple clouds, we've introduced Greenlake Cloud Services. Darren will be talking to you about that in a moment, but these are models in which we are able to provide consumption-based models that are self-serving, pay-as-you-grow, managed by HPE or the partner, and are also a kind of pay-as-you-grow type model. Finally, we've invested in a number of acquisitions where we've looked to provide technology that allows organizations to process high data requirements with high performance computing, such as Cray solutions. And that, from me, is a high-level view on our strategy. I'd like to thank you for your opportunity this morning to talk to you all. And I'd like to pass over to Darren to talk about Greenlake in more detail. Thank you.
Morning, everyone. Thanks very much, Heather, for that great introduction to the HPE's strategy moving forward. And one of the things that Heather was talking about there was Greenlake and cloud. What organizations of all sizes are coming to find now that we're into a second wave of digital transformation? Public cloud is well established, but what we're seeing is that organizations have data and applications everywhere. And if those data and applications are everywhere, then you have to be able to use that data to its best ability where it's created, or where it is best to process it and where it is best to action those insights on that data. So we have that modern cloud experience. So we know that we can move workloads into the cloud and they will function and they will deliver an outcome for our businesses. And we've already done that. Certainly with larger organizations, they've already well adopted public cloud, and it brings speed and agility to those applications and those services. But the reality is that there is a huge amount of data and applications that must remain either on premise, in the edge, in a co-location, for really, really good business reasons. It could be data gravity. We generate data at the edge. Let's use it there. It could be latency. If we have to action data, but it's in a cloud, but the applications are elsewhere, that can introduce delays. And we have dependencies and compliance to deal with as well. And that makes things difficult to manage. But we've already adopted cloud. We know about public cloud. So why don't we look now at a new way of delivering IT services with that cloud experience, no matter where they live? This is what we're trying to look at now with Digital Transformation 2.0. We need that speed everywhere. If your business is going to be successful, you need to be able to simplify and operate to gain you an advantage. And this is what Greenlake strives to do. HPE Greenlake is the cloud that comes to you. We can provide self-service, pay-per-use, IT systems and solutions that can work at the edge, co-location, data center, or across multiple clouds. We have the ability to do scale up, scale down. It can be managed by you, or it can be managed for you. And it's all with pay-per-use. So we simplify the economics of delivering IT services. And it's not just simple infrastructure. HPE Greenlake Cloud Services, under our Greenlake Central banner, so that's how you actually go and consume services. You go and log on to the Greenlake portal. But from there, you can deploy, consume all the types of modern application services that you need to run your business and to drive that success, speed, acceleration. It could be high performance compute. We could provide private cloud, networking services, remote working. We know how much that has changed over the last 6 months. All with governance and management behind it to make these things compliant with your business requirements. So how does HPE Greenlake Cloud Services work for you? It's quite simple, really. Like consuming a public cloud, it's self-service. What do you want to provide? Is it containers, virtual machines, compute, storage, backup? Do you need an artificial intelligence platform, machine learning? Now, Doug's going to talk to you in a little bit more detail about our Ezmeral software portfolio. Ezmeral can absolutely be consumed as part of Greenlake service. And Paul will talk about the Aruba ESP platform. We can provide networking services under a cloud provisioning and management model. What we've done is taken a number of industry standard solutions and pre-configured for workload optimization. So unlike a traditional procurement model, you can do that self-service, self-select of a solution that your business needs and have that delivered to your location in as few as 14 days. And underpinning it all is that self-service cloud experience, point and click, easy to learn, operate, simple to price. You have a guaranteed known outcome at the end of the day. Greenlake's one platform. We can absolutely deliver traditional type of infrastructure, virtual machines, containers, all the kind of things that you've built your business upon. But the modern business is looking at those cloud native applications as well. How you actually scale things out. You need to maybe provide a new type of service. And as I've said already, Doug will talk in a little bit more detail about the Ezmeral platform, the container platform, the software services that Ezmeral delivers to be able to actually transition your company to providing those next generation of services through software. I guess this is really the summary slide for me, is that Greenlake brings the cloud to you faster. You get to choose the workload that you want. Simple order, simple to install. It's all pre-built or ready to go, and simple operations. It's a new way of providing IT services delivery. It allows you to grow, it allows you to shrink. It's simple to consume. A little bit more about the services transformation delivery. So for all the personas within your organization, from the data scientists through to finance, operations, the CIO, the legal teams, Greenlake solves the problem for all of those personas. Developers can speed up their development and release code faster. If they can release code faster, it means that you can offer new services faster. You can actually gain advantage on your competitors. Finance has good control over what is spent. It's consumption based. So that ongoing cost model. We've actually seen as an organization people going to the public cloud and then taking things back on premise because of runaway spend. With Greenlake, you know exactly what you're spending, whether or not it's on premise or whether or not it's in a public cloud. So it's easy to manage. Data scientists through the Ezmeral platform can gain absolute insights and create real advantage from the data that you have. There are petabytes and exabytes of data being generated. There are some very, very clever people out there using models to actually make value out of this data. think the last one from me really is, this all sounds great, but actually it sounds complex too. But it's not, you know, HPE has the expertise to help you design and define that right mix for you. Which workloads belong in public cloud, which belong in your private cloud, which belong at the edge, and we can create a solution that spans everything, edge to cloud and data driven. We have that expertise through acquisition. So we've taken on some very, very key organizations that absolutely understand cloud and cloud service delivery to help optimize and accelerate that cloud migration. And underpinned by our operational services and advisory and professional services, we monitor, operate, and optimize that infrastructure and applications to provide you with the best fit solution for providing IT service for your organization. What's the real benefit for you guys though? Time. Time is so valuable. Traditional procurement and design and, you know, understanding what you need takes so much time. With Greenlake, because we've packaged up a number of solutions, you know, we have optimized that infrastructure, those core things that people need. It makes it much quicker to actually implement a new solution to help your business go forwards. HPE takes the risk. These are services that we have crafted and created to best practices with our best-in-class operational services underpinned, you know, predominantly by InfoSight, that enable us to make sure that we can reduce unplanned downtime. We keep your business running better. And because it's consumption-based, you only pay for what you use. So traditionally, you might go, oh, I know, I need 100 terabytes of disk in 5 years' time. So you buy 100 terabytes of disk today. But actually, if you only need 20 terabytes today, why buy 100? With Greenlake, you make a commitment and you know how your business is growing. So you can actually spread that cost. You can reduce your capital expenditure by removing over-provisioning. The cost of storing nothing is very expensive. And we bring that control and insight. So we have our Greenlake Central portal where you absolutely manage everything. We've got the visibility of the infrastructure, the location, the services that we're creating. You can see all the financial controls there. You've actually got governance built into it as well. And we've got the insight to show how you're consuming the platform and how you might consume it in the future. So that's just a little bit of a view of Greenlake. You know, HPE has committed through our leader Antonio Neri has committed that all HPE solutions will be able to be procured and consumed as a service by 2022. We're making great inroads to be able to do that. HPE is best placed to provide a hybrid IT platform for your business for the future. And that's it from me for the moment. You'll hear from me shortly again, but I'm just going to hand over now to Doug Cackett, who's going to talk us through the Ezmeral portfolio.
Great, thanks, Darren. So the Ezmeral portfolio, yeah, next screen, I think, probably. Excellent. So it's funny, really, that we all seem to have settled on the same theme, which is really about change and time, isn't it, more than anything else, and transformation. I've been very lucky, actually, over the last few years. I've worked with Geoffrey Moore, he of Crossing the Chasm and Zone to Win fame. So if you haven't read those books, I'd kind of recommend them. But he was very fond of telling customers that this is the least amount of change you'll ever see. This is even before the pandemic, of course. So he, of course, was very right. But even ignoring the pandemic for a second and thinking about it, and well, in fact, if you think about where we are now, we're in kind of a melting pot of in fact, these three ideas that you can see in front of you. But effectively, if you think about the move to the cloud, it's taken us a long time to get here, really. From an IT point of view, we've gone through kind of rationalizing and standardizing our portfolio, haven't we? So we had a huge number of applications. We've rationalized that down. We've rationalized versions. We've rationalized infrastructure. We've even rationalized vendors. And then we, kind of having done that and driven out huge amounts of costs from IT, we've gone through kind of the virtualization game and automation, and we've also re-implemented a bunch of applications, because if we didn't do those things, we wouldn't be in the situation we are today, where we could move to the cloud at all, frankly, right? Because there were just too many things, too many moving parts. We've now got to a stage, though, through the initial wave of the move to the cloud, and I was a cloud enterprise architect for a number of years, so I know this very well, that certain stuff moves to the cloud relatively easily. You pick it up and there's nothing attached to it, right? So because it's standalone, it's stateless, it's fine, it's cloud native. These are things that we've reimagined in a cloud environment, and they work really well. The trouble is the majority of most estates there aren't that. So you can see here, it says 70% of the estates, they are entangled, they're data centric, right? And they're stateful, and those are really difficult to move. And yet we know we have to move them in some way. So, and of course, now what's happening, especially with, and that's principally the reason why HPE acquired technologies from Blue Data, is we are able to do this one thing, the thing that defines the difference between the Ezmeral container platform and other platforms out there, is this ability to be able to wrap, stateful and entangled applications. But that's only part of it if you think about it, because as Darren was saying, and Heather before, that the majority of data now is really generated at the edge. And what we need to be able to do, if we're really to have this flexibility in IT that we need, we want to be able to move data from where it's generated at the edge seamlessly, without having to do all the plumbing work, really, without having to spend huge costs and management time to manage the plumbing of that data from the edge, maybe into the data center where it could be analyzed. And then maybe we're building data, machine learning models or AI models, and moving that back to the edge so we can apply kind of the intelligence, if you like, to the way that the data is being collected. So we can make every application that you as a business are putting out there as intelligent as possible. But in that, there are huge numbers of problems as well. We've recently done some research with Forrester, actually, and they suggest that only 14% of organizations have got a repeatable and robust mechanism to go from a machine learning model in the lab to actually physically operationalizing it. So taking that model and moving it out maybe to the edge, so you can move it into an intelligent application, maybe run at an edge in some IoT device, or maybe into an application at the edge. So only 14%, so 86% of organizations can't do that today. And fundamentally, those things are the things that the Ezmeral portfolio are designed to address. So this is the exam question. Yeah, thanks, Darren. Next screen, if you could. This is the exam question that we started with, really, when we built the Ezmeral software portfolio. Now, it's a bigger portfolio than that, as you can see in front of you, with things like SPIFFE and Spire, for instance, so zero trust in the Kubernetes world. But really what I wanted to do today was, talk to you around, three of these components, really, and three of these components in a broader jigsaw puzzle, which is really about container management. So how do we deploy these stateful and entangled applications? How do we then stretch a data fabric, with a global namespace from the edge all the way to the data center and the cloud? And also then how do we use both of those components to generate machine learning models, and then operationalize those and manage those in an enterprise grade way? So those are the three components I really wanted to talk to you about. And let me do that, rather than talk to you about it in slides, let me just give you some case studies as well, because it seemed like the best and most fruitful way of moving through this. So Darren, if you could, the next screen. So the first of these is a major enterprise bank. It's a really interesting use case, actually, for a couple of reasons. They had a really well-defined landscape, to be honest with you. In fact, they'd previously moved, they had a massive kind of enterprise data warehouse, operational data store type environment with Teradata and others. And they'd moved into a data lake kind of environment where it was well managed, had a huge estate of ab initio as well, data being copied from Teradata and operational systems into that data lake, as you'll often see in these very large organizations, built up over a number of years. The biggest problem they had is that data was, even with a data lake, the data was really difficult and really gnarly because it was big, to be honest with you. So the challenge they had was really about agility around analytics. They wanted to, they saw the value in analytics. They had a plan to hire a number of data scientists, a number of additional data scientists. The problem is that every environment they built took them 9 to 18 months to actually physically build. So that's to provision the infrastructure and the tools and the data they needed. And anytime a data scientist wanted to do work, they physically copied all of the data into the new environment. So each one of the data structures they had previously in the data warehouse was copied in the data lake. And of course, that data lake was then copied into the data mart they were then using to do the analysis that they were doing. And it was really unsustainable. I mean, the $6 million figure here you can see in savings fundamentally was a cost saving in data, nothing more than that, right? Now, in a traditional environment then, if you're a data scientist, you're in charge of the new problem, you have to, well, the first thing you have to do is go and find an environment, and then you have to go and copy the data, as we talked about. Now, you're going to be using a read-only copy, of course, because you can't, but you're going to be wanting to write data as well. You need whatever tools you want and the data, and you need to bring all that together. And that takes time, as we said, and time is the enemy of data science, to be honest with you. So imagine a world instead where, and this is the world that we created here, where effectively you've got a portal, and that portal is set within your ServiceNow catalog, for instance, which is the way that you normally consume IT. And you can run through a number of screens. On the first screen, you just give it a project name and a duration, how long you want it for. And then you might next screen, and on that next screen, you determine the size of the environment you want, whether it's CPU or GPU, whether it's highly available or not, those kind of things. The next screen, maybe you select the tool. So I'm going to use TensorFlow, for instance, and Python, or maybe I'm going to use tooling like DataIQ or H2O or whatever you want to use, right? And the next screen, you through a shopping experience with the data, you can look at the data catalog you have and decide on what data that you need to answer the problem that's in front of you. And you click the Now button, and all of that data and a read-only copy of the data is provisioned instantly, basically. So we're using the container platform and MLOps to do that. So we're generating, if you like, containers with all of the tools that you need in an environment where you can start to do work immediately. And that's really key. I mean, the saving is massive. Even better now, with just 2 lines of code they had to change, which is really just a way of registering the cloud provider they wanted to use. They can also spit those environments up into the cloud instead. So maybe they can burst into the cloud, or maybe bring that back from the cloud and into the on-premise environment, right? I mean, this is really very powerful stuff and quite unique, and also enabled through the kind of data fabric that we're just about to go and talk about. If you next screen, Darren, thank you. Oh, next. Next screen. Thanks. So in the interest of time, we'll skip that one. So this one then, this is not kind of a use case. It's actually, the data fabric that we have that underpins the container platform as persistent storage is also available as a data fabric all of its own as well, right? And it's kind of the de facto standard for motor manufacturers for autonomous driving. And that one of the reasons for that, I think, is as much that there are very stringent service level agreements in terms of autonomous driving. You can imagine that if an instance of anything, a crash of a car or anything else, for legal reasons more than anything else, right, you have to be able to prove the data and what happened and the model you were using and everything else. The provenance becomes really critical in these environments. And we found that any environment where there are these stringent no data loss possible, very stringent SLAs involved with the data, both in terms of being able to load and manage and query the data, that's where MapR, who were the acquisition that has now become the data fabric, that's where their heart was really. So this is a really good example. You can imagine, I worked on one of these where effectively this motor manufacturer, they run cars 24 hours a day, and those cars generate terabytes of data every hour into these devices mounted on the car, and those cars come back, the devices are taken out, and literally that data is dumped there and then, and events are pulled off the data immediately, but then also that all of the data is then taken back to main data centers where it's analyzed and available for generating the AI models, basically, and those AI models then are pushed back to the car. So it's a really good example of edge devices, poor connectivity, but stringent SLAs, and the fact that you want to be able to do that with very low levels of touch. You want it to be almost like, forgive the analogy, like the plumbing in your house. You just don't want to worry about it. You want to be able to consume or use the water the way that you want. You don't want to worry about how it's connected and just how it works, right? And that's really what this is. And there are so many examples out there of this technology being used. Perhaps the largest and most interesting I found was the biometrics registration system in India, where, again, you can imagine there's massive connectivity issues in all sorts of places in India, and yet registration of individuals is really paramount in India. So, fingerprints and iris scans and so on and so forth are all managed, and the data fabric is managed through this data fabric, right, which has a global namespace that allows us connect from those edges all the way into the data center. The other thing the data fabric has is it has a complete, so effectively, it has the full Apache ecosystem. So we've seen recently very many customers have been concerned about the cost of their big data estates. And they've really come to us looking for an alternative. And of course, we have the full Apache ecosystem, as well as a way of modernizing that ecosystem through containerized deployments, for instance, of Spark on Kubernetes rather than Spark on Kafka, and streaming database engine and so on and so forth. So we've developed a particular study called the AMP study, which stands for assess, map, and then propose, if you like. And so it's a free of cost study, which is an assessment of your current state when it comes to your current big data estate, and the cost and complexity of moving it, if you like, onto the container platform as a modern environment. So if it's of interest, then please do get in contact. Next screen as well, Darren, thanks. Lastly, this is another good example. I mean, what we see, and what hopefully I've conveyed, is Kubernetes is, let's face it, the new environment, right? And that's where everyone's going. And this is another good example of a workload moving to Kubernetes and making a huge contribution. This particular customer, I mean, for compliance reasons, they have to do security audits across their IT estates. And they were licensing 15 terabytes a day for Splunk and getting not even a fraction of that they were managing something like 50 to 150 gigs a day per box. That's on a single thread per box. And the challenge really is to do with inbound, loading and indexing that data, let alone the need to query and query that data to look for fraudulent patterns and those sorts of things. Just moving it into a Kubernetes environment. So we've got a Splunk operator now for Kubernetes. So we're able to push, rather than having just a single thread, we're now doing 12 containers and 12 threads. So we're managing a sustained 4 terabytes a day rather than the 50 to 150 gigabytes a day. So there's something like a 90% consolidation factor, and we're now able to push it up to something like 400 terabytes a day, loading into these boxes. I mean, so the consolidation is massive, right? But we're also getting 14 nines durability, believe it or not, across 2 data centers. So a massive saving in costs, or massive increase in scale. But what it does allow is it allows you to leverage the resources that you're purchasing, right? So to make the most of your Splunk licenses. In this case, it also takes it all back round full circle. That's delivered through Greenlake. So it's Greenlake as a service delivery, which has been a fantastic thing for us. So with that, I think I'll wrap it up. So thanks very much for your attention. And I don't know whether we're going to have questions at the end, Darren, but thank you for your time.
Just back over to me now. Thank you very much, Doug. So what Doug was talking about, obviously, is managing data at scale, and that huge problem that we're going to have moving forward, where the generation of data, what's valuable, how do we actually action that, and how do we actually get proper insight out of it? And that is all part of HPE's intelligent data platform. And there are really 2 parts to that, though. So the data management is what Doug's talked about, and I'm going to talk more about something a little bit more traditional, more about the heritage and the history that HPE has in providing great storage platforms. If you get me in talking over a beer, I started when when disk drives were bigger than washing machines and they were only 100 megabytes. So a little bit of an introduction really is HPE sees us now in a new era of intelligent data. We've had Flash, Flash is well established, what speed, simplicity, efficiency, and people are now, so we got masses of performance improvement when we went to Flash, and now we're talking about NVMe, and NVMe is great technology, but not really much of a game changer. We're talking about changing the speed at which we can work with data in small percentages, but it's still of value, and is going to be the way that we move forward. We then obviously moved into the cloud area, which brought agility and that as a service experience. And what that enabled us to do was to actually move the data and manage the data in a different way. But now we need intelligence. So we have Flash, we have cloud, but actually how do we pull it all together and make sure that the data we have, pulling back to Doug's point, is kind of, we have to manage data from the edge through the data center and into the cloud. We need intelligence to do that. And we need an artificial intelligence driven experience to actually deliver the best value out of our data. HPE's view of that is having an intelligent data strategy. It should be always on, always fast. It should be automated and on demand. It should be hybrid. Like I say, it could be edge, cloud, colo data center, wherever it is. And we need to provide global intelligence. So our intelligent data platform spans from a very traditional on-premises infrastructure and storage platform right the way through to that big data management problem that Doug was talking about earlier. A little bit about intelligence within the data center and within infrastructure as a whole. And typically, you know, it's an onion. We've got multiple layers in there. We've got virtualization, containerization, hypervisors, operating systems, servers, storage, networks. If we have an operational issue, most of those problems aren't within our storage layer. So actually having intelligence within the storage isn't the full answer. And these are far too complex for us to try and resolve. You know, actually trying to do, you know, that source. You know, trying to actually find the source of a problem is becoming increasingly difficult. So that's one part of our intelligent data platform. The second part of it is actually taming that hybrid complexity. We've got lots and lots of data on premise. We've got lots of data that's in the public cloud. We have to have that intelligence to determine where to place data. Where is its best value in terms of time to execute, in terms of actual just physically, you know, the cost of storing data. Where is it, you know, where is it best to be placed? And the intelligent data platform aims to solve both of those problems, operational complexity and hybrid complexity. Our intelligence is the enabler. Always on, always fast. We can solve those problems at an infrastructure level because we have AI there that actually knows what's going on. That hybrid cloud moving data around. Data lifecycle, the value of data. Traditionally, as data gets older, it has less value. You know, if you say I've got 100 terabytes of data, actually your data scientists, your developers, your users, your customers, how much of that data are they actually using on a day-to-day basis? It might be that, you know, 10%, 20%, 90% of your data is very, very rarely used. Why place it on a very expensive system? Put it where it has best value. And we have to manage that growth of data as well. You know, depending on whose figures you read, you know, 40 zettabytes by 2020. So we're already in 2020, so that's probably going to go exceeded already. Have you got the power to harness those insights? And that's the, like I say, that's the intelligent data platform and, you know, the data fabric that Doug was talking about. A repeat, too complex for us to solve. So what is it? What is our platform? So as I said, we've got all of these different types of people that actually need to access data. Lots of different workloads, big, you know, we've got applications, big data, we have, you know, automation, we've got cloud management to worry about. HPE has built workload optimized infrastructure for any workload, primary, mission critical, secondary, the big data problem, and can actually place it anywhere we like. All underpinned by our global intelligence. So what does that really look like from an HPE perspective? Well, we know these workloads. And as I was saying before in the Greenlake session, you know, we've identified these key applications and services and we've actually packed them up as a Greenlake service. But there's nothing stopping you, you know, these are all based on reference architectures. We do all of this as either standard, traditional procurement or as a consumption-based model. We provide data mobility from our tier 1 mission critical data platforms such as HPE Primera through our general purpose nimble arrays, secondary storage through store once, actually being able to actually take data then and move it into the cloud through our cloud volumes capability with cloud volumes block, cloud volumes backup, and also, you know, long-term storage through Cloud Bank and actually being able to, you know, put, you know, deep archive data on some really, really low cost platforms. And it's all underpinned by InfoSight. InfoSight is absolutely the differentiator with the HPE because we understand applications, workloads, and data. We aren't just about providing a compute and a storage platform for you to run workloads on. We actually want you to get actionable outcome from running on our infrastructure. That global intelligence doesn't just cover the storage. As I said at the beginning, most of the problems that we get from running an infrastructure, be it on premises or in the cloud, is that top to bottom visibility, what we call cross-stack analytics. So we need to have that visibility of storage, servers, systems, virtual machines, and networks. So InfoSight gives us all of that. Within the data center, we have preemptive recommendations. If you're running a particular version of code and want to upgrade to a new version, we can give you a best practice recommendation to say which version to go to, which is best compatible, which is going to cause you no problem to upgrade, which is going to keep your business running. It's an analytics platform that's cloud-based. It's crowdsourced. All of our systems that report into the AI, into InfoSight, are generating data about data. So if, there are 10, 20, 30 customers that look very similar to you, we can prevent problems happening to everyone because of the data that we gather about everyone. It's global learning. We automate the support experience. You'd expect that. It's best in class support. If you happen to have today, an issue with one of our Nimble storage arrays, when you pick up the phone, you get through to somebody who's a level 3 engineer. You don't have to go through the process of, giving your name and address and, providing logs. We know all of that data. And blacklist, whitelist, we prevent you from doing things that are going to cause you problems within your data center. And then what about above it? So above it, we have the customer portal where you can actually see a visualization of the infrastructure that's running. So what was launched last week is, and we now have deep recommendations at the virtual machine level. So we understand from the platform right the way through, from top to bottom, from the virtual machine through the host, the network, the storage layer, how to best operate those machines. If we have any, if we got noisy neighbors, something like that, where you can actually make an intelligent action to actually say, okay, well, I need to move this workload from server A to server B because it's actually impacting on other parts of my business. And we can dynamically do that and offer you those insights today. And the platform is evolving. It's constantly getting better. We're bringing the entire HPE portfolio under the InfoSight capability, and that extends out to our, our big data. It's right the way across our capability. So that was just a quick view of the intelligent data platform from an infrastructure, from a more traditional HPE storage perspective. So if you'd like to learn more, just reach out to your Ultima account manager after the event and get in touch with us. So on that, I'm just going to hand over now quickly to Paul, who's going to talk about the Aruba Edge Services platform for you.
Thank you, Darren. Straight on to the first slide, please. Thank you, everybody. My name's Paul. I'm an SE working within the Aruba business. So we'll just chat you through very quickly about what the announcement is, kind of what it means and what it doesn't, I think is quite important. So the reason why we came around this is that we still, I've been doing networking for quite a long time. We still have, even with networking technology silos, so we still have wireless teams, wired teams, and security teams working separately, maybe under their own management, with their own guidance and their own goals. That can lead to lack of visibility on the network. We are still not fully aware of all the devices that are connected onto our networks, and therefore are unable to secure on all the devices on the network, especially when we're looking at the world of IoT. Security threats are rising all the time. More and more people working from home in various strange locations that we've not been used to before. So we need to understand how that creates risk for our businesses. And we're still having, all these years later, having to do more with less. So we need to try and simplify things. Next slide, please, Darren. So the Aruba Edge Services Platform, or ESP as we call it, is effectively taking our current infrastructure as well as what's coming along next and putting them into 3 ideas that can help you simplify the management of your networking infrastructure, software and security. So we start off with AI Ops, and AI Ops just pulls out all the intelligence from the portfolio that we have. So whether we're looking at wired access points, our controllers, the management applications that we have, or whether we're looking at the wired stuff with our switching, we take the intelligence from there, we pull it all in together into AI Ops. Our unified infrastructure is about being able to manage all of your networking infrastructure. So whether it's your WAN connectivity, whether it's your remote offices, home workers, wired and wireless devices, all being able to manage together. And then zero trust security is about saying that it shouldn't matter which network you're connecting in from, whether you're a VPN user, a wired user, a wireless user, everybody needs to have no access to anything at all until we understand who they are, the type of devices that they're using, and where they're working from, and things like the date and time and things like that. And we need to fully understand the devices that people are using, and also those IoT type devices that are connected to our networks as well. Pulling all of that together with flexible consumption models around finance, with Greenlake and with HPEFS, makes all of that very easy to consume. Next slide, please, Darren. So AI Ops is, as I said, about taking data that we collect about the people that are using our network and the devices that are using, how our networks are being used, and taking actionable data from there to help people make decisions about how to better run their networks, and even automating that where possible. So we have about 65,000 customers that we are collating anonymized data from, with around 1 million networking devices and about 50 million client devices and clients accessing Aruba networks. And all the time, our customers are collating data about how those networks are being used, where possible problem areas are. And we can help customers in that case by collating that data together, using things like machine learning, AI, to help operations keep those networks working well, spot trouble areas before users start phoning up saying the network's broke again. So we deliver real outcomes. So we can reduce the amount of time to resolution by finding issues before the issues actually occur. So using our user experience insight sensors, which mimic users testing the network to make sure that it's working well, and telling us where there are services that aren't working correctly. We can reduce the number of IT tickets by finding problems before they're reported. We can improve network utilization. It's a particularly useful thing that's come out for retail around us, which is where retail stores are being hit by users' devices just as they're walking past stores, polling, looking for networks, finding out where their best type of connection is. That can actually have quite a large overhead on the ability for access points to be able to perform. So we've proven that we can increase network productivity by up to 25%, just by being able to spot devices that aren't authorized onto the network and are just probing, looking for information, change the way that the radios are working, and give a better service. Next slide, please, Aaron. So the value for us for AI Ops is about giving a better user experience. It's about being able to do more with less, being able to draw more data and better insights out of the infrastructure that you have, being able to get resolutions to issues not just faster, but before you even know that you have them. And the bottom line is increased user satisfaction means a lot of things. It means more productivity from employees. It means home workers can have a better working experience, get their jobs done better, and importantly, save on costs and improve on revenues for our customers as well. Next slide. So the next thing is about unified infrastructure. And unified infrastructure is exactly what it says on the tin. It's about taking all the infrastructure that we have, whether we are looking at campus networks, whether we're looking at branch networks, home workers, and even the data center, being able to manage your entire infrastructure through a single, we need to find a better phrase than pane of glass because we've been using it for far too long, but through a single management portal, that being based in the cloud through Aruba Central. So we find now that we are able to manage both our wired and wireless infrastructures, our branch offices, our WAN connectivity through Aruba Central. We can apply policy to our users as they're hitting the network through Aruba ClearPass, making changes to the infrastructure where it's needed dynamically through our policy enforcement firewalls, which are built into our access points and our controllers. And we can automate things like orchestration, getting users onto the network, and managing VLAN management, simple things like that, all through Aruba Central. Next slide, please. So here's just a quick slide to show you how we can help to simplify operations. The screen in front of you is from Aruba Central, the new release 252, and it shows you very quickly the topology of your network, from your users through the access points, the controller that they're connected to, the switches and the gateways that they have on their networks. The tabs at the top very quickly can show you information about insights that we're pulling out from all of that infrastructure and all the users there to show you where there may be potential issues, where we can offer you resolutions in real time, where you literally click on a button that says fix issue, and Aruba Central will go away and reconfigure your network for you to make it work better. So whether you're missing VLANs, whether you're having issues connecting through to the wrong DHCP services, whatever it may be, Aruba Central can find those issues, get them resolved for you quickly. Next slide. So the value to our customers for having a unified infrastructure is you have a single architecture right across your campus, your branches, your home workers, and even into your data centers. You've got a single operational experience. So regardless of whether you're managing your wired or wireless infrastructure, regardless of whether you're looking at a data center or a campus network, you've got a single user experience. And you've got really simplified management. The way that we can pull out insights from all the connectivity that we have around our networks and give you real actionable data, big smiley faces to tell you when everything's happy and sad faces that tell you when something's wrong and where to find an issue and fix it, help to simplify your management, all within the cloud, within a simple subscription model. Next slide. So zero trust security, Aruba is first and foremost actually a security business. We don't do anything without having security absolutely top of mind. We have a number of technologies built in right through our infrastructure that help with that. IoT and attacks on the inside are the two biggest areas at the moment for vulnerabilities for our customers. Most IoT devices connectivity is built to a price point. Doesn't really have any unique security features about it. So it's actually can be very difficult to tell whether a device connected on the network may be a temperature sensor in a network connected refrigerator or even a fish tank, whether it's a CCTV camera. These can be hard to find out. So we need to fully understand what our devices are. And we actually find that 70% of cyber attacks that happen on enterprise customers nowadays actually come from authorized users who have already been approved and accepted onto the network. So it's not the unknowns that we're really scared about. It should be people who are connected onto the network making honest mistakes or having attacks onto their devices once they're on the network. So we need to protect them. Next slide, please. Build that one through. So we have a zero trust framework. And that means that regardless of the type of network that you're connecting from, so whether you are a server connecting onto a data center network, whether you are an IoT device being connected, so a CCTV camera, or whether a user connecting in on a wireless network, or now more often through VPN as a remote worker, every single type of connection needs to be properly authenticated, needs to be authorized by the right kind of service, and your data should be encrypted so that people can't interfere. That's what zero trust security is, and we take that advice from people like Gartner. ClearPass Policy Manager is the crux of zero trust. This is our vendor agnostic network access control system. 40% of global 500 companies are ClearPass customers, even if they're not using our wired and wireless networks. So the picture here is just talking you through how we can help pull everything together through ClearPass to be able to apply policy to our users and devices to make sure they're all working effectively but securely. So ClearPass Device Insight tells us all about the devices that are connecting onto our network. It uses things like crowdsourcing to take user data and also data from behavior of devices that are connected to the network and tell us exactly what those devices are so that we can decide what they should be doing on both the wired and wireless networks. Let's not forget our wired clients, and actually we're getting more and more of them with more and more IoT devices coming onto the network. We tie in with third parties for firewalling, for being able to generate tickets, and being able to make sure that the right security applications are also installed on people's computers at the same time, so that they link in with and agree with our security policies and are compliant. Next slide, please. So bottom line for zero trust is that we need to have full visibility of every single device that's on the network. We need to understand exactly what that device is capable of doing, what the risks are, but also what it needs to be able to do. Microsegmentation is really important to ensure that only authorized devices can access the areas of the network where they need to. We need to be constantly watching what's going on. Branch networks are becoming more and more prevalent as customers move away from very, very large campus type offices and into more branch locations. Role-based access is absolutely vital. We need to be able to change the security policies applied to our users and our devices depending on how they're being used and what we understand their intentions are. And we need to be able to fully control the flow of data from our application firewalls to be able to ensure that people can only access the stuff they need to access. Next slide. So this is the ESP portfolio. It consists of all the stuff that we currently make. There's nothing new here. You can't go out and buy an Aruba ESP. You build your way to a journey where you're able to have a unified infrastructure running software that can pull out, actionable data, offer you help and advice, and then tie that in with all of our technology partners to be able to give you a fully integrated, cloud-native, highly configurable, automated infrastructure for your users that gives your users and your devices the best possible experiences. Next slide. That's it from me. Thank you very much indeed for your time.
Okay. Hi again. So it's just for me to wrap it up, I guess. I've got a few things to go through. Firstly, thank you to all the speakers today. So thank you to Heather, Darren, Doug, and Paul. So I want to talk about briefly how HPE and Ultima work together on a number of these projects, and how by engaging with a partner who works collaboratively with HPE, we can create better results and create better journeys for that customer. So I'll talk about 2 use cases. One, I've got a quick slide to talk about RBFT, which is the Royal Berkshire Foundation Trust. So Ultima won a contract about 3 years ago to provide all of the outsource for the Royal Berkshire Foundation Trust, and they were a typical NHS hospital who had lots of, not so much fragmented, but certainly lots of systems and lots of legacy systems which were running on architecture and old operating systems and old storage and networking and such. So we spent some real time with HPE together to understand what their strategy might be going forward, essentially to reduce downtime, to increase the speed of delivery, but also to reduce the management overhead on running this in the long term. Because essentially, if we were managing the services, we wanted to be able to make sure that not only are we providing a better experience for the customer, but we're able to provide better uptime and better and cheaper support, essentially. So we deployed a HPE Nimble or many HPE Nimble storage platforms, as well as Synergy, Front Service, and Store One. So essentially create an end-to-end data center infrastructure platform. And where this worked really well for us was we have the ability to scale that out rapidly. We can add additional compute modules in with the Synergy chassis to scale out compute rapidly, and using the HPE technologies to be able to make sure that we're able to do that quickly and not take a long time to. When a hospital needs additional capacity, it's generally because they want to do something to be able to save lives or be able to diagnose quicker, or be able to provide services to their doctors and nurses and other staff. So it's really key that we can scale the staff out quickly. So that agility was really important to them. But again, important to us was that ability to support that platform and support it well. Now, InfoSight gave us really key viewpoint on the infrastructure, whereas years ago, and even with HPE 3 or 4 years ago, to do a storage upgrade or to make a change to a storage platform to add new storage, or to upgrade the firmware, or to do whatever it is, it's a very intense job with making sure that you do all the prerequisites. I remember doing a 3-part upgrade 10 years ago, not even that, 7 years ago. And the case of, it took 3 days to make sure that all the firmware versions were the correct firmware on all the VMware hosts, and make sure that all the drivers were at level, that VMware supported, and all that sort of stuff, before we could even then apply the update, which had to do downtime in the evenings, to be able to do one controller, then to the other controller, and it was an effort of 4 or 5 days worth of effort to upgrade the storage platform, which you have to do once a quarter or 6 months, which you generally put off because it's such a big effort. However, with Nimble, that is pretty much automated now. So upgrade-wise, we just allow it to upgrade. We still do it out of hours just to make sure, but actually there's no need to do so. And it will even tell us in advance of the upgrade. The Nimble platform will say you can't. We advise heavily against upgrading to the latest version until you do X, and that X might be to upgrade the firmware on the NICs on the servers, or it might be to upgrade the latest driver in VMware, or it might even be the fact that there's a host running with a misconfiguration, and I said actually you need to fix that misconfiguration, and here's how to fix it, in fact, before we apply the upgrade. So the point where InfoSight goes even that one step further, and actually stops you doing that upgrade if there is a very serious issue it's seen on another person's environment somewhere else. So let's say that it knows that a driver version causes a VMware host a purple screen when you're running a newer version of Nimble. It will actually stop you doing that upgrade until you've done that change. So it really does take the effort away from supporting that platform. And I want just quickly on that. There was one other area, a real case scenario where we're having troubles with machines with extended ping times. Sometime there, it wasn't timing out, but we're getting some ping times of 10, 15, 20 milliseconds. And it was actually, Infocyte actually told us there was a misconfiguration on a Cisco switch. The fact that it doesn't even tell you about challenges it's experiencing noisy neighbors or challenges with connectivity to a VMware host, it'll actually tell you, hey, the configuration on this switch is wrong. You need to change it, even though it's not its responsibility or its scope of influence. It will still tell you about stuff outside of that. So it's made a real difference for us being able to support the trust. And lastly, the APIs have allowed us to create huge amounts of automation within that, within the trust systems as well. So not only can we do things faster and quicker and more consistently, because we're applying the same automation again, but there's some really neat things we've done with the APIs into HPE platform. So we're able to, when a machine gets decommissioned in VMware, we literally just park that machine in a folder in VMware, and that kicks off a load of automations to allow us to then talk to store once and talk to Beam to be able to take a archive of that and dump it off to tape via store ever and store once. It then goes and then kicks off more automations to go down that device, wait for 30 days, and then to delete it out of Active Directory, and then go and make sure that all of the stuff's cleaned up with our ITSN system in ServiceNow. So we're able to use all this. These APIs are open within the HPE platform to really speed things up and make things a lot more consistent and ensure that it's repeatable every single time. The second use case, I don't have a slide for, but I'd like to talk briefly because it was touched upon with Heather during the strategy talk up front, was around the networking space, and it's around the Ryder Cup. Again, I'll speak about it because I was personally involved in that project. But again, it was a collaborative effort between HPE and Ultima. To be able to, and Aruba, obviously as part of HPE, to be able to deliver this to our customers. We worked together, and personally I worked out in France for quite a while to be able to get this over the line, but some of the technology we used around that data analytics, again, we talk about the collecting data, which was really useful within the Aruba platform, all these data points, but we're able to now action those data by doing the analytics. So we were able to know where the crowds were. So we knew how many people were in the village at any one time consuming food, because we could tell by using triangulation within the Aruba access points to be able to understand how many people were in a certain area, or how many people in a grandstand. We knew the grandstand capacity of each of the, I think there were 19 grandstands, of each of the 19 grandstands, just by how many phone signals that we could see within that grandstand, and the triangulation work out where they are. So we can actually better direct the on-site staff to provide security in areas where there were more people. We were able to provide understanding of when people were moving into the food areas, or where there were people gathering on the course where we might want to send a mobile drink seller out to. So we can action that data in real time to be able to provide real value to that business. And getting go one step further with that, so I was really interested to be able to see during the foursomes, we were watching these people go out across the foursomes, and we could see the people gathering on the course, following the groups around, and we could see, by the fact that it was the largest group, and the largest two groups, we could see where Tiger Woods was and where Rory McIlroy was, purely in the fact that the number of people that were gathering around them, again by triangulation of the people's mobile phones. So that data analytics is key to be able to provide real value to that customer, to be able to make actionable things. And lastly, on that same area, we rolled out the Ryder Cup IT network system in between 6 to 8 weeks. And the only way to do that, considering there were 128 switches and 649 access points, and yeah, who knows, number of servers and services. The only way to do that was via zero-touch provisioning. So we would put an API out and it would be able to configure itself. We would put a switch out and it would be able to configure itself. And also by using security policies within ClearPass to make sure that when a till, a point of sale terminal plugged in, we knew it was a point of sale terminal. So we provided the correct security services around it, because we identified it as being a point of sale terminal. And when a ticketing gate connected, we knew it was a ticketing gate. We didn't have to manually go through and add a MAC address or add a service VLAN to it, because we automatically identified it as being a ticketing machine or ticketing gate to be able to put it into the right network to be able to secure it correctly. And even a point where we were having things like random stuff like cache machines. We had a cache machine connecting to the Aruba network, and we had to identify it as being a cache machine, and rightly so, put it into the correct security group to be able to make sure that it was protected against people who were also guest users on the wireless network. So we had 59,000 people connecting to the network. So we had to make sure that we secured each people appropriately, whether it be a staff member, whether it be a contractor, whether it be a guest, a player, or whether it be a cache machine. So we did all that using the Aruba security technologies. So it's a really real life scenario of Ultima and HPE working together to be able to create these solutions and be able to help those customers be able to understand those solutions and get the data to be able to make those actionable changes, such as selling more beer or more Coke or hot dogs to players to guests or spectators that were watching the Ryder Cup, because we knew where they were on the course. So anyway, yeah. So thank you very much for attending, and I hope you got real value out of this and understanding of where HPE are, where they're going, and I'd like to again thank all the HPE speakers for talking, and thank the guests for arriving. Thank you very much. And if you've got any questions around any technologies, please do reach out to the account manager to get to have a meeting, or just to have a chat about how we can help going forward with your technology and data challenges. Thank you very much.